Hello and a warm welcome to TCR Asia. Beautiful day here at Sepang in Malaysia as we set off for round 2 of the series. As you can see, the cars already on the grid. Small field, it's early days in this brand new championship for Asia. But already we've seen some good results, some good driving. Philippe Decombe, the team manager of ART Racing, Asia Racing Team. And the Frenchman that's had an accomplished career before he arrived in Asia and decided that he wanted to manage and develop drivers. And he's been doing that ever since. And a chance, first time since 2012, to jump back into the car. And he was really enjoying the experience yesterday afternoon, racing against Rodolfo Avila, who, of course, is racing in Porsche this afternoon. So Rodolfo had one run out in round 1 and won't be taking part in round 2, but that maybe leaves the door open for Philippe, who had a wry smile on his face this morning when I spoke to him, because I said, how about a win today? You don't get a chance to race too often. And he said, you know, I think I'll be thinking about it. But so far, the big story of the day in terms of race 1 was the Seats. Seats dominated the race yesterday, but only due to the fact that Ford, with Andy Yan, the only Ford entry, failed to finish the race. They had an intermittent electronics problem to do with the fuel system, and it stopped them in practice, and it also sadly stopped them in the race. And it's even more sad because Andy Yan had been leading early on in race 1. Sean, Michael Choi, the man we're looking at right now, made the podium yesterday. I think we're going to see a similar fare, but it could just mix it up a little bit. Now drivers are getting more and more experience in the cars themselves.
I think that's the big key, isn't it? It was interesting to see that the times that they were setting during qualifying yesterday weren't too far off the TCR International Series. We spoke about it yesterday. That most of those guys are professional touring car drivers. A lot of these guys are amateurs. They're very talented amateurs,
and we
but they don't do this for a living.
Yeah, we can make that direct comparison because the TCR International raced here in Malaysia.
Absolutely. The very first round of the championship, the TCR International Series, was in Sepang in March, so we can make the comparison. Then again, you're talking about the Seat Leons. They were the ones that dominated at that particular time. But it's interesting, you talk to Philippe Decombe and Rodolfo Avila, and they say, wow, how much power does the Honda have coming out of the slower corners? And that's one of the highlights of the Sepang circuit. You've got these long straights, but they're usually bookended by very slow speed corners, so it's all about the torque and the drive. And Avila yesterday said, I've done a lot of sports car driving in my time, but these things really do hustle once you get onto the power. The torque they have coming out of those corners is really very good. So they're very impressed with the car, and of course Asia Racing Team at 1-2. They want to step out of the cars for the next round in Singapore and see somebody else take over the wheel, and it'll be interesting to see how they go. Eric Kay, another one driving for the Craft Bamboo team.
Yeah, it looks like they're changing the grid up a little bit. I think maybe a couple of changes from the original grid. Kenneth Lau's been moved, Eric Kay's been moved. I spoke to Eric, actually, the youngster from Hong Kong this morning. Really enjoyed racing the car and also being part of the Craft Bamboo team. Just to give you an idea of what this is all about, this is effectively a new era for tin tops in Asia, and the hope is it's a more affordable era for tin tops. It kind of got out of scale a little bit, and the objective is to create a guideline and a set of regulations which works across the countries, both internationally and worldwide. And the hope these regulations will be adopted by the major national and regional championships so that we can build from Thailand, from Hong Kong, from Korea, and build into an international Asian scene as well as a world championship scene, which has already begun, of course, as we've mentioned. Also, they want to control the stability of the development and production and the running costs. That's the key here. If the running costs get out of whack, then effectively it becomes too expensive and you get too few cars at the top of the tree, and therefore other entries don't want to compete, because in order to compete it becomes a bit like Formula One. It's the haves and the have-nots, and that's fine for Formula One at that level, but it can't be sustained in touring car levels. So the idea is that the cars are sold between 70 and 90,000 euros, including the engine, I may add. And that's the idea. 2-litre turbos, and they're producing something in the region of 300 brake horsepower. And Sean, I know this is something dear to your heart. You think this is going to work, right?
I'm excited by it. I think it's fantastic. I'm an Australian. I grew up not too far from Bathurst. That's one of the most iconic touring car events in the world. And I'm a touring car fan. probably fallen off that a little bit over the years because touring cars seems to have taken a multitude of different directions, and that's part of, I think, what the success of TCR will be, is that's amalgamated all those things, taken into consideration the concerns, how this can work not only as a model for competition, but as a model for business. See a little bit of damage from Samson Chan's car from yesterday.
Samson Chan was spun round at turn 2 yesterday, rather unceremoniously, so it was a bit miffed.
What a great story that was. Yes, he was still fuming on the grid afterwards with the GT race. So, yeah, it was interesting to have that discussion with him. But, no, certainly the TCR series, it is fantastic. I think it's going to be a great thing. But like anything new, when you start, people sit on the fence. They don't want to jump in on the first one. Let's see how it goes. But somebody has to make the commitment to do it, to get these things to go. So, Motorsport Asia Limited with WSC Asia, David Sonninger has taken that commitment and then moved the series into alongside the GT Asia series and attracted these teams in. And so far, I don't know what you've heard when you've been down there talking to guys. It's the feeling's very positive.
Well, also for David Sonninger, I mean, obviously Motorsport Asia goes from strength to strength, but I think the fact that David's also on the board of the international scene as well makes a big difference. So it's not just an outlander in terms of Asia trying something to emulate the international scene. This is a cohesive package which crosses right across the globe, and I know the intention is to spread it even further and wider to the Americas, South America, North America. So we are starting to see, and that's why we see also participation in Formula One events. And once you start getting into that scene where you're part of that big global circus, you really know that everybody is taking it seriously, FIA included.
Oh, and everyone's looking at you too. You're under the microscope as to what you're doing. But there's 3 determined levels of TCR series. Certainly that will be introduced next year. It's not quite obvious yet because we've only had the TCR International Series, which has done 8 rounds of the championship so far. We'll see them again when they join us in Singapore in 2 weeks' time. But then there's regional championships. There's 3 regional championships next year, one in South America, one in Asia, obviously we're part of that, and another in Europe. And then there's the national championship. So whilst we have an Asian championship, next year there'll also be a Thai series. And the levels are to progress through. All the cars are identical. All the teams' structure and infrastructure is the same. A team that competes in a national series could be building cars for the international series. That's the business model. It's going to help make all of this sort of thing succeed. So there's a bigger picture at play here. And as you said quite rightly earlier, it's affordable.
So this is the second race of the championship. And we just had a few movements on the grid to make sure that the grid was full. Because the reason being that Rodolfo Avia, who of course would have started on the front row, is not taking part. But Sulik Carr of Asia Racing Team coming in, the Macau driver. I've watched him race many a times at the Macau Grand Prix, so an experienced peddler. He will start right at the back, unfortunately for him, because obviously he had no time for practice. Just happened to be here watching the races and obviously saw the opportunity and wanted to, I spoke to him this morning, wanted to try out the car. And I do really believe that the hotbeds of touring car racing in Macau and Hong Kong and southern China, I think this is where this is really going to take on, because these guys love their Civics. They may not know the Seat as much, but you know, you only have to have been part of that part of the world's racing over the years. And that Honda Civic you see in the top left there of Kenneth Lau, and he's one of those proponents from Hong Kong. I just think it's too easy for it not to catch on, because they love these sorts of cars.
Oh, they do, and I think the reason why the Seat's been so good is it's been the benchmark when they looked at developing the category.
Kenneth's got a problem.
Kenneth does seem to have a problem. Door open, they're addressing it. Hopefully he'll be rolling again shortly. They used the Seat Leon as the Seat Leon Cup car as basically the blueprint for how a TCR should be. So all the other cars moulding themselves to a similar style. Of course, we've seen Jazz Motorsports from Europe. Yeah. They've built the Hondas. They've been involved in touring car racing before. They're involved in the World Touring Car Championship. They've sent cars to Asia for the likes of the Hong Kong Touring Car Championship for Michael Choi and Kenneth Lau. So they know how to build cars along similar lines. The FRD team build Fords, and they've won 6 of the last 8 championships for the China Touring Car Championship. So anyway, let's just take a look at the grid and see how they'll line up for this second race.
Yeah, Philippe Decombe of ART and Michael Choi, who was on the podium, he moves up a grid position given that Rodolfo is not there. That allows Kenneth Lau, we'll see if he makes it, because obviously he was stuck on the grid a moment ago. But Eric Kwong for Craft Bamboo Racing starts 4th, and that's good good news for him because he really does feel as though he can get a podium out of today. Samson Chan, beaten up yesterday for Roadstar Racing, but back. Ida, likewise, stuck in the gravel at one point. Mashika Ida from Japan starts 6th position. He'll want to get a finish out of this one. Mitchell Chai, we've also got some of the S2000 local racers in this one, including Mitchell Chai, Farazil Hassan of JC Racing, and they will be racing against, for their own podium as well, Freddie Newman and Siu Ki Kun rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, they had a very spirited battle last night, and it was great to see the 5 of them on the podium all together enjoying the racing, and this was a nice addition to the field. They're out there doing their own thing, similar styles of cars, saloon cars, touring car style base, and they're having a great time being a part of the inaugural TCR Asia Series event here at Sepang International Circuit.
Andy Yan and Lulik Kar start at the back, and it's going to be interesting to see what Andy Yan can do in the Ford because he's quick, but of course he didn't get to take part in the second qualifying and therefore starts right at the back, as does Liu. And I think that's going to be, I'm going to keep an eye, I'm going to put myself on backwatch. Not Baywatch, backwatch. I'm going to see how the back markers come through. Obviously, all eyes will be on Philippe de Koom at the front, and I can't see anybody really challenging unless he doesn't make that first corner, because he was close yesterday. He drove very well. He's getting used to the car. I asked him what it's like as a car to drive, and he said it's interesting. He said it's an easy car to drive, but it's an easy car to overdrive, and I know exactly what he meant by that. And what he meant by that was you could take a novice and put him into this car and they could drive very well. But if you start pushing too hard, it's less of a racing car, more of a car, production car. And so therefore, if you overdrive it, you just go slow. Philip is a good proponent to tell us about that sort of thing, having driven so many different cars and been a trainer of young drivers.
Certainly very experienced to be able to make those observations, but these guys have really enjoyed their time. We were only talking earlier in the telecast about the fact that a number of these amateur drivers aren't too far off the pace of pros like Rodolfo Avila and Philippe de Koom. So there isn't a big void. So that means the cars are very, very user-friendly, which is the hallmark of the success of GT3 racing, and that's part of the reason that we have TCR, and it does take some adaptations from the success of GT3 worldwide.
You know, and it puts me in mind of, I'm really dating myself now, but 20 years ago, I've just seen Alex Young win for Audi, and I remember coming to Macau when he was just a 15-year-old boy, and he had 2 cushions to hold him up against a little BMW 3 Series to enter the race. He was too young to enter at one point. He got a dispensation, but he was a young touring car kid coming through the ranks. He didn't have the opportunity to join a championship like this. He made it all the way to Formula One, but it was a bigger struggle 20 years ago. Now the opportunity is on for people like Alex Young wannabes, if you will, to start right here in a championship that is affordable and great racing. Here we go for race 2 from Sepang for TCR Asia. Watch out for Andy Yan. They reckon that they've got the gremlins of that fuel issue sorted in the Ford, but they start at the back. Philippe de Koom, the number 14 on the left-hand side of your screen. Will he dive into the lead, or will he be held up? Watch out for Eric K from Hong Kong, just behind him. Kenneth Lau looks as though he's got things going. The green flag waves at the back. We're about to go racing for round 2 of TCR Asia. And go lights, away we go. And not the fastest who starts off the line by Philippe. But no wheel spin, and away he goes. Kenneth Lau does get away in the number 38, so I'm glad to see that the Civic is up and running. And in fact, both the Hondas already crowding the Seat at the front as they go into turn 1 here at Sepang, but everybody line astern. Michael Choi drops into 2nd place, and the 2 Civics will now chase down the Seat Leon of Philippe de Koom of France. Out of 2 they go. Good clean start and a spin for Samson Chan. If it wasn't for bad luck, he wouldn't have any. That's the 2nd time in 2 days he's been spun round at that corner. Poor old Samson Chan, one of the great gentlemen of our sport here in Asia, does not deserve that at all.
But look who's moved into his position. So whilst there's been an opportunity for Samson Chan to disappear, Andy Yan is right back up 5th already by, where are we, turn 4 to turn 5.
That's insane. What a start. I hope that's not a jump start, because if he really has done that genuinely, he is going to be flying and in contention. Already though, Philippe de Koom is pulling away at the front ahead of the 2 Civics.
How good do they look? They sound okay, but they really do look good, don't they? They're very impressive. Got a great personality sitting on the circuit. But those Hondas, is the concern for the Seat drivers, is the pace that they have, certainly in a straight line. And Kenneth Lau yesterday was right in the mix, if you recall, in the early laps, right on the tail of the two ART cars before he threw himself off the circuit, just trying to find. As Eric Kay comes for a move up the inside, it is on Kenneth Lau, and he hasn't made it stick.
Well, he might not. They're side by side right now, and they can still make it happen. He's keeping his foot in. He's keeping his foot in. He's not going to break. This is great racing. And now the Civic comes through. And here comes Andy Yan in the Ford. What a start to this one. I can't believe how quickly he's got on level turns with him. And he's already challenging the young Hong Kong driver.
Well, Kenneth Ma did say if we get the gremlins sorted, and they think it may have actually been electrical, not so much a fuel issue.
Okay.
So they've done a lot of work on the electronic system last night. I saw them sitting in the garages at 10 o'clock at night, still working on the wiring.
They have literally worked overnight on this. They're a little grumpy, I may add, down there in the pits. They're not fun to talk to right now. Andy's about the only one to talk to you.
And Kenneth Ma did predict that if we get this thing sorted, it's definitely a podium car. Just keep a close eye on Andy, and he's shown that already.
And he has gone through past Eric Koo in another position made. He's now got the Civics in his sights as they come out of the last corner. Andy Yan misses a gear there. Oh no, don't tell me he stopped again! Oh no! Just when they thought they got it sorted, it's all come to naught one more time. The Ford Focus is out of focus.
What were the chances of that? We've just talked it up. Kenneth will be pulling his hair out. The frustration for him, of course, is they had two Focuses to debut this weekend. One of the engines got caught up in customs, and that was the car he was supposed to drive. FRD have built the second car. This is an Onyx car that Andy Yan's in this weekend. So they had one Mount June engine, and the second one didn't make it in time, so they pulled out. He just wanted to make sure Andy had the job at hand. But here's the two Roadstar cars.
Another good story here. Felipe Sosa in fifth place. He really has done good. Coming through the ranks, he had a problem also. Well, the 63 Ford Focus has got going again with Andy Yan, but whether he'll be able to keep it going, but it's all kind of fizzled out, really, because he was in and challenging for the top 4 place. But going back to Sosa, I spoke to him this morning and really enjoying it. He didn't have an easy time of it. They had a suspension failure, rear left suspension, which completely crippled one of the tyres in practice. So that ended that practice. So they haven't had a lot of time on track. But the Macau driver really enjoying his chance to take out this car. And already up to 5th place ahead of Masahika Ida in 6th place.
Masahika Ida is no stranger to competition. He's the boss of the Dixel braking brand in Japan. So if there's anything else going on with that top-speed Roadstar car, it's going to stop very, very nicely. Thank you very much. So he's enjoying his motorsport and an opportunity to join Sousa and Samson Chan in this Roadstar team, 3-car Seat Leon team. They're in for the whole season and looking forward to improving as the season moves on. And we talk about improving, that's really just because we're talking about the fact is a lot of these are amateur drivers, and they need to spend time with these cars to get themselves up to the sort of speeds that you'd expect to see from a Philip de Kom or a Rodolfo Avila. Eric Kay just in a bit of a watching brief now behind the two Hondas as Kenneth Lau looks to dive up the inside of his teammate. There shouldn't be any contact here.
Nice move then by Kenneth, and up goes the 38 to 2nd place as they come down the main straight. But the important thing is they want to keep Philippe Descombe in their sight, because Philippe is flying, and they did up the pace that last time, and they are on similar pace, but they've lost a couple of seconds. The gap's on 4 seconds now to 2nd place. And if they're not careful, Eric Kay just in the background is going to catch the two Civics, and then we should have a 3-way battle. But I think Philippe has got this one in the bag at the moment anyway. Still a long way to go in the race, but as predicted, Descombe is off and running to a rare victory if he can make it stick and keep this pace, but I don't doubt he will.
Well, based on yesterday's lap times, Philippe Descombe's best lap was a 2:21.2, so he's got 1.3 seconds in hand if he really needs it. The fastest lap yesterday, 2:20.1, was very close to qualifying times. So Michael Choi might have just had a little bit of an issue coming out of turn 3. It's allowed Eric Kay to move in. Now, Eric Kay is a former Hong Kong touring car champion. Joined the Craft Bamboo team for this weekend and is very impressed with the Craft Bamboo operation. Of course, the Craft Bamboo Look Oil team are leading the TCR International Series, so very well versed at running these new TCR Series cars. and we expect we may see at some point Frank Yu, the Craft Bamboo Racing team boss, back behind the wheel when his time allows. Certainly enjoyed debuting that car here in March earlier this year. He had a great time behind the wheel, but of course he's very committed to his GT3 program. So again, businessman, he doesn't have enough time to be jumping in and out of these cars. So that left a perfect opportunity for Eric Kong to jump behind the wheel, and he's shown to do a very good job this weekend. What do you say, 3 years since he last was in a competitive race car. So the first few laps were very tentative, just getting used to the way things worked in a race car again. But here he is, P4 in just his second race.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. So a little further down, we're keeping an eye on Samson Chan. He's ninth at the moment, having been spun round, but he's on the pace and could come through a little bit. Likewise, Felipe Sosa of Macau still in fifth place, and he just did a 2:23.4, and he's not in this pack, but he's just behind it. But this is where the race is for second, third, and fourth place. They come out in the last corner, and the gap to Philippe, who crosses the line now, to 2:22.047. Let's compare their times to the leader, 2:22.5. So they're on decent pace, and they're not far off him, but he's just a few tenths quicker each lap, Philippe. And I think he's just extending that lead now. The gap 4.8 seconds, but also doing a good job, Eric Kay, 2:22.5. He's on the same pace as those in front of him. These two Civics that you see right now going through turn 2, and it won't be long, I don't think, before Eric Kay is right with them. So it's a 2:22.4, so he too is on good pace, and I think that's the key to this. There's Andy Yan, he's got it going again. Big news, good news. He's a lap down, but he's still circulating. That's at least a plus.
Be nice to see what sort of pace he can turn, given that the benchmark now is 2:20, as set by Rodolfo Avila on his way to victory in the very first race of TCR Asia Series yesterday. We might be able to see Andy Yan and the FRD team go after that benchmark and top that. Hopefully, I think probably what they're looking for is at least a run of 4 or 5 laps that they can put into the books, so that they know they've got these bugs ironed out. Okay, they're out of the race, but that's no real reason to park the car in a garage. There's an awful lot of data they can gain on that brand new car at this race this weekend. So interesting to see whether he works his way past all these guys
Yeah.
and past the leader. That'd be a little bit disconcerting.
That's what I do. What
yeah,
the heck?
Yeah, you're in it. Why not? There's the challenge. Good looking car too.
Great looking car.
And we're really looking forward to the Kenneth Marr car making its debut. Of course, that car that Andy Yan's driving, built in Europe by Onyx. The next car is actually built by FRD, and again, there are no slouches in touring car construction, being the manufacturer or the team that has won 6 of the last 8 China Touring Car Championships. So they will be very competitive. Locked wheel from Michael Choi. It's allowed Eric Kay to close up again, run into turn 14. This long straight down to the hairpin turn 15, and then the long charge 950 metres down to the turn 1-2 complex.
And just in case you're interested and you started to look at this, if you're watching online and you think, this is an interesting new championship, think about this. We're here in Malaysia this weekend, but they're going to be at the Marina Bay street race, effectively, Formula One, I may add, on the 18th to the 20th of September. So you talk about being in front of the biggest crowd in the world. What a great opportunity. Before that, and after that, excuse me, they go to the international circuit in Thailand, so another great venue, a new venue, and of course, doesn't get any better than finish off the year at the end of November at the Macau Grand Prix, the prestigious Macau Grand Prix. Most of this field have driven in the Macau Grand Prix in different formats, but to be in a one-make series like this, or sorry, not in a one-make series, in a series, a brand new series like this, very exciting for touring cars, and I think we're going to see quite a lot of entries as the year goes on. But looking ahead to 2016, very exciting.
Well, the other thing too, of course, as you say, they're on the same bill, but they're actually in the same field as the TCR International Series, so they will be big fields of cars. And they're in the low 20s now in the International Series, 2024 cars, and you add in the Asian Series, that'll be a very, very big field and a very competitive field. And a lot of these drivers too will get a first-hand experience on how to get the most out of these cars, so it'll be very valuable for all of them. And that's one of the hallmarks of the involvement of TCR.
Yeah, Andy Yan sadly has retired that Ford Focus, and we kind of figured that he wasn't going to get too much out of it, but it's not been a good weekend, but they tried, that's for sure. There's no question that they've been pushing and trying to get that car fettled, but early days, and well, he did lead for a couple of laps in race 1, and sadly, he's had to pull out of race 2. Let's see if they can get it going, though. There's still one more race before the weekend's out. Now, this battle continues between Kenneth Lau and Michael Choi in the number 68. Choi just behind in 3rd position. Nothing between these two, and a mistake there by Kenneth, and that's allowed Michael Choi to come side by side just behind Eric Kay. And also creeping up closer and closer is Felipe Sousa in 5th place. Michael looking for a way past, looks to the inside. Classic overtake at Sepang. Oh, and into the pits. So Kenneth has got a problem. And that moves everybody up. And that puts Eric Kay in a podium position. Well, I asked him this morning if he felt that that was on the cards, and he said that's what he's going for. Become now with an 8-second lead. He really is piling on the pressure. And I wonder what's up with Kenneth. He's sort of looked out of shape for a moment, and there's definitely something not right.
Well, again, they're brand new cars, and as Kenneth Marr with the FRD team said to us yesterday, the Mount Tune engine that was caught up in customs did arrive, but he said, I don't want to risk putting it all together and having some sort of issue. We want to actually run the car.
I take it back. It's a black flag, an infringement, a grid infringement, excluded from the race. That's the reason for coming in, and he is out of proceedings. So that is a disqualification, actually. Nothing wrong with the car, it looks like, and he was just pulled in by the officials after a grid infringement.
Well, it could be anything. Jump start, missed a flag, call, could be
Is there a number of people allowed out there, or?
Yeah,
well, all sorts of things.
Yeah, could be. Anyway, we'll determine that one before race 3 this afternoon. We can find out some more information for you. And of course, if you want to talk to us at any level, you can log on to social media, twitter.com, TCR Asia Series, one word, and facebook.com, TCR Asia Series. So please join us. Please get involved in this emerging category, because it's only good. You can't see anything that's going to hold us back. We're on the up. Jonathan Green, I think this is going to be the next big revolution in world motorsport.
I hope so, and I think more than what you're watching today in terms of the beginnings of it, it's the fact that the regulations are going to open up to all the regionals. I'm thinking of places like Thailand and Korea, who now have a young and burgeoning, even India and China have, a young motorsports fraternity, if you will. And they've tried different. Thailand's the best example I can think of. They've had all sorts of different types of touring cars. It's been the stalwart of their racing scene for many years, and the likes of Natavud and Vudicorn have come out of that. But they've never really had a cohesive package, and I think if we can have something like that, where the cars are the same, but we have different teams, and they can come to the table with their names and their parts suppliers, because it's the individuality that they enjoy. It's choosing their team rather than a one-make series, and I think that's what's going to make it exciting for countries like Thailand and Korea and China, is that they can do that. And I think that's what this represents, is that opportunity. And Malaysia, of course, included in that too. Malaysia's had an amazing scene for a long time, but it too has struggled as the costs have gone up each time to compete at a level of a world touring car level in terms of the spec of those cars. No one can maintain those cars, which are often handed down year on year from the world touring cars as they travel around the world. But this is different.
Oh, very different, and you're right, that is at the absolute elite level. But you talk about a team like JAS Motorsport that have built the Hondas. They might build, 2, 3, 4 Hondas for World Touring Car Championship a year. But already prior to the end of this season, they're looking at the 2016 season, they're saying they could face orders of up to 15 cars.
Wow.
Because people are so interested in the TCR series and the concept. They want cars for not just the regional series, but the national championships like Thailand that we're talking about. So they have to start constructing these cars now. So that's where the business model works. They're a cheaper car to run, a cheaper car to build, but once you start to build more of them, you've got spares, the costs will start to come down, you can start to share between championships. But the cars that you run here, you might finish your season in your national championship, or your regional championship, and hand that car down to the national championship. It'll still be just as good, but it's a second-hand, cheaper car, allows people in at a more cost-effective entry level, and that's the way the whole tree starts to evolve.
We're watching the man currently in second place at the moment in that Civic. has entered the car. Michael Choi chasing down Philippe Decombe, but Philippe has just gone off to the races. He's circulating in the 2:21s. He is pushing that car to the very limit, but he's doing it for a reason. He wants to learn. He said that the car was very different compared to the short stints that they did in qualifying. The longer runs that they found, obviously, in the race itself, the car acted and felt very different. And I think Philippe, right now, is pushing it as hard as he can because he really wants to get an idea of how the car changes with the tyres and how, over a longer run and pushing it throughout the race, it reacts. And so there's method to his madness. But then again, he's also a racing driver. So the method to that madness is win at all costs and go as fast as you possibly can. Right now, he's killing it at the moment. 11 seconds ahead of Michael Choi in second place. Eric Kay, there he is, in front of you right now on the number 99. Third place, the Hong Kong driver for Craft Bamboo. Felipe Sosa still in fourth place. Ashika Ida just behind him in fifth. Samson Chan's caught back up to sixth place after being spun round at the start. So I'm glad to say he kept pedaling. Poor old Samson.
He's not having the best of weekends, is he?
Not really.
He was really looking forward to it. He loves his motorsport. He'll step into an open wheeler. He'll step into a GT car. Now he's stepping into a touring car. It was almost no surprise that when the entry list was revealed, there was Samson Chan's name on the list because he just likes to get involved in his motorsport.
Interestingly enough, the timing screens just told us that the number 38, the car that was pulled into the pits, Kenneth Lau, has been asked to come to report to the race stewards after the race, and I think that's more of an explanation for him, really, so he understands what the infringement was and they don't commit it again in race 3. So, yeah, whatever they did wrong, we're going to find out what it was after the race. There is Philippe Decombe in the number 14 Seat Leon. Brand new era of racing. You can see how hard he's pushing. When these guys are really pushing, I went out on track actually on Friday to check out one of the practices, and in the final couple of turns, they almost get on, well, they do get on three wheels at times under braking. And there's an example. When they're really pushing, bouncing over the curves, but just where, in fact, just where he came out of there, that's one of the corners that they do get on 3 wheels.
Weight transfer, of course, front wheel drive. Huge brakes on the front of these things, but almost saucers on the rear. Very little rear braking required because all the weight transfer under braking is to the front of the car. You see the rear wing on the back. That's not like, oh, here goes Andy Yan back out again. Let's see, we've got 3 laps left in this race. He might get a couple of laps in. The rear wing and the aero on these cars, it is there for a reason. This isn't like your street car with a plastic wing, gaffer taped, if you like, to the rear window. These cars actually do take full advantage of the aero that they have, so very effective to get the car to keep all the weight transferred to the ground, which of course allows them to apply more power and get the maximum performance out of the car. So these are proper race cars, but they're probably more closely aligned to a road car, perhaps, than, say, a GT3 specification car in some cases.
Sean, if you can, give us a sort of a lesson in the specs in terms of what we're looking at here. Obviously, these are silhouetted or very similar production cars. They're not silhouettes, they're production cars,
yep,
but souped up and turbocharged. But they're small engine cars, and the idea, like I said, is to keep the costs low. So what can you do? What can you put on the car? How does it work?
Well, essentially it's to a controlled set of rules. 2-litre turbo engine, somewhere between 300 to 330 brake horsepower. Front-wheel drive, of course. Control Michelin tyre. You're right in the sense that you're talking about a silhouette. There is a set format for how these cars are built. And each one of those cars, it's not an open rule book. You can't just run what you want. It's a 4-door car. And the structure is basically the same for each of those manufacturers. And of course, it's controlled too. So if a new car comes in and it does potentially outperform another car for any reason, then they will apply what they do in GT3 competition, for instance, as a balance of performance. And that might be to apply an additional weight penalty to one car over another. So a couple of these cars do run different weights, around the 1250 kilo mark, so either side of that, depending on which mark you are. and that will make sure that the performance level of the cars essentially is balanced. Now, certainly in GT, and they'll probably be doing this in TCR if they're not already, so excuse my lack of knowledge on that front. They put one driver in all the cars on the same track on the same day and compare the pace. And if one is a standout, then they will find ways to parity adjust that car to bring it back to the performance of another. So that will keep all these cars as close as possible. So whilst the SEAT guys say the car on screen, the Honda is very, very quick out of the corners, it probably doesn't have quite the aero potentially or the performance in the corner that perhaps the SEAT does. So you lose on one hand, you gain on another, but the overall lap time is what's important. If that's the same, doesn't matter where you make up that advantage, they are parity adjusted. And it's good that there are different marques that have different performance characteristics. You don't want them all being good in a corner, or all good under brakes, or all good firing out of the corner, because then it'll get boring. You have to find a different way to somehow adjust the cars, because every driver's different. They have their own inherent characteristics as to where they're faster and where they're not. But certainly a controlled formula to make sure that, again, if you're in a national series in Thailand, your car is identical to the car racing in the TCR International Series.
More bad news for Ford, I'm afraid. We saw Andy Yan come out, and he was just behind one of the top men. I think it was Ida he was behind for a moment there, and we saw half a lap where he was out on track, but sadly he slowed again. I don't know if he's come to a complete stop, but not been a big day for the Ford team. But I'm glad they got back out there and they are trying to sort that problem on the fly, so to speak. But it's not happened just yet. Coming down to the closing stages then of race 2, and we are looking at the number 99 headed for his first podium, an historic first podium for Craft Bamboo in Asia at least, and certainly for Eric Kay, a great moment for this youngster from Hong Kong. Can't see him catching Michael Choi at this point. There's your leader, Philippe Descombe of France, and I'm really happy for him. He doesn't get the credit I think he deserves. I remember when he first arrived here in single-seaters a long time ago as a youngster, and he's been here in southern China for a long time, and he's responsible for a lot of the young guys that you see in the Porsche Carrera Cup today, in the Audi R8 series, and in the GT Asia series, in terms of his knowledge and his preparation and his education of these drivers about how to drive fast and how to do it right and stay on the road and learn racecraft. I want to give that credit out to Philippe. And he's also proving why he's so good, because look at how he's rolling away towards victory in this one. There's the checkered flag then. Philippe Descombe of France wins by a country mile. And I said to him this morning, I just got a feeling you want to go out and win this. He said, yeah, I don't get many chances, and so I'm going to try to win, and he has done so. Michael Choi got a third yesterday. He takes a second place today. And Eric Kay gets his first podium for Craft Bamboo, the Hong Kong driver coming across the line in third place. Felipe Sosa of Macau holding on to fourth place ahead of Masahika Ida of Japan. Good race between those two. And Samson Chan will come out of the last corner and round out the top 6. And it's not been an easy start to his TCR Asia campaign, having been spun round twice. Congratulations in the S2000 category to Mitchell Chair, who took 7th overall and wins for the Malaysian Championship. Firesal Hassan taking 2nd place and Soki Kun in 3rd. Kenneth Lau then not making it in and pulled in by the officials. We'll find out. And also car number 44 and number 67. That's 2 of the local drivers are being told to report to the stewards after the race. So plenty of shenanigans going on out there, but nothing can take away a brilliant win from Philippe Descombe of France and ART Racing. Now that completes round 2. We've got one more race to come from this brand new series. And as Sean was saying, the likes of Morbidelli and the international boys will be in action, and these guys are going to have to take those guys on here in Asia, in Singapore, in Macau, and in Thailand, and that makes it very interesting because they'll get a definite benchmark as to how far they've got to go before they can get to that level. And I'm sure with a youngster, someone like Eric Kay. He's looking towards betting himself in with this Craft Bamboo team and maybe making it all the way to their international team eventually. But that's the ladder. That's what we're looking for. Is not only getting a stable and affordable touring car series in the region, but also a chance for young drivers to use that to move forward. Here we go then. Philippe Descamps, Michael Choi and Eric Kay, your top three. Felipe Sosa in 4th place, Ida 5th, Samson Chan 6th, Lulik Kar coming into the car and taking 7th place. So with no practice whatsoever, he completes the race in 7th place. And good to see him out there. I spoke to him this morning, really looking forward to it. And considering doing the whole championship in 2016, the McLaren driver. And already in Parc Fermé, the top 3 cars. And congratulations to Seat as well. Unbeaten so far in Asia.
Well done, again. Good race. Easy. Huh?
And Philippe was saying, not as fit as he used to be. Doesn't look too bad. Good workout. And a good learning experience for the team manager. And I think a little bit of fun, but at the same time, a very interesting exercise in learning how this car operates.
One more here. Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
And in a moment, we'll hear from the top 3, I hope. Sean heading down there, and Craft Bamboo, you can see, delighted with that result for Eric, as he will be. Andy Chisholm, man in the middle of the shot there, just having a photograph with his driver. Been around racing for a long, long time, the Englishman. Good to see him here for Craft Bamboo.
Wanda over there. Yep.
So then, that concludes race 2. And just to confirm, Philippe Descamps, Michael Choi, and Eric Kay is your top 3 in race 2. And Philippe Sosa in 4th place, Ida 5th, and Samson Chan rounding out the top 6. Let's head down to Sean. Hopefully he's got the top 3.
Philippe Descamps, there you go. Victory this time round. Looked like it was fairly hard work.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the car was a bit unbalanced because we didn't put new tires in the rear. So it was a bit tricky to drive, especially in the beginning. It was a lot of oversteer. But it's all right. After 2 or 3 laps, the balance started to come back again. But for sure, we'll have to do something else for race 3. But I'm happy with the race. I think I improved the start. Less wheel spill than yesterday and kept my position. So all good.
Well done.
Thank you.
Back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Sean. So the highlights of race 2 look like this. Philippe Descamps saying he's improved his starts, and he did too. He didn't get any wheel spin this time and held off the chasing Civics. And they both started very well, and so did Eric Kay in the background there too, also in a Seat Leon. As they dived into turn 1 though, Philippe basically won this with that first corner and never looked back. As soon as he got the lead, just put on the pressure, powered through. Andy Yan involved actually in that incident, which spun round Samson Chan in the number 56 Seat. Poor old Samson, second time this weekend he's been involved in an incident at turn 2. Luckily, got it going again and did finish the race. Meanwhile, out front, Eric Kay was mixing it up with the Civics. Andy Yan was there. He came from the back, did Andy Yan, and I was so pleased to see the Ford mixing it and getting into the top 5 before they once again hit their mechanical gremlins. But as the race progressed, Philippe pulled away at the front. Andy Yan, as you can see in the background in the Ford Focus, stopped on track right in front of the checkered flag, or would-be checkered flag, but he wasn't taking it, unfortunately. He did get it going again. They came back in the pits, and meanwhile the Civics battled each other. And Kenneth Lau in the number 38 would soon be pulled into the pits for an infringement from the grid, though. So there's plenty of drama going on. Felipe Sosa, who had some problems in practice in the lead-up to these first 2 races, was flying this time and taking the number 66 Seat to a 4th place overall. Meanwhile, Philippe Decombe out front and pulling away. By the end of the race, he'd extended his lead to 10 seconds by the halfway point, and as he crossed the line at the finish line, he'd moved it to 16 seconds in all. So really quite dominant for ART Motorsports, but great to see. And Philippe crossing the line and taking the checkered flag for a double win now for Seat. Can anybody stop them in race 3? Certainly Philippe says he's still got work to do in that car, and he's going to continue to try to improve it. That concludes race 2 then for TCR Asia. We have one more race coming up from Sepang, so stay tuned with us here. And feel free to get on the website, check out the costs, the news, the kind of cars that are available. And also, if you want to tweet in and let us know your thoughts, and if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them for you.
Number 3. Michael Choi back on the podium with position number 2 for the Honda Civic. And Philippe Decombe from Asia Racing Team takes out victory in race 2 of TCR Asia Series. We'd like to invite Mr. Patrick Diaz, Asia Pacific Motorsports Director of Michelin Investment, to give away the prize.
So the podium, there you see Philippe in the middle there, and getting the prizes handed out. Craft Bamboo's Eric Kay, or Eric Kwong, to give him his full name.
And victory to Philippe Decombe.
And that's Michael Choi's 2nd time on the podium. He's had a 3rd, he's had a 2nd. Surely now, if he can get the start and stop Philippe, he's looking for a 1st. But that's a tall order, given the way that Philippe is driving at the moment. You wouldn't think he'd been out of a race car for a few years. He hasn't lost any of it, has he?
Congratulations to our podium place getters for round 2. You're invited to
So congratulations to our top 3 in round 2 of TCR Asia. Just one more race to come from the championship, and don't forget, they are warming themselves up for an opportunity to head to Singapore in a few weeks' time, where once again they'll be rejoined by the International Series, and that should be a lot of fun around the streets of Singapore.
5th place, Freddie Newman. 4th place, Sophie Coon.